This woman's husband was always coming home late. Then one day she took a close look at his clothes. Jana and David Miller had not been married for long, but already David was returning home from work late. This left Jana feeling lonely and insecure, stuck in the house alone with their baby girl. Were they not enough for David anymore? Was he more interested in work, or was it something else? Then one day Jana took a closer look at his clothes while she was doing the family laundry, and what they revealed about her husband's late nights changed her entire outlook on their lives together. Jana Miller and her husband David, both 20-somethings from Leesburg, Indiana, first started dating in October 2012. In November the following year, over Thanksgiving dinner, the couple got engaged. Jana then gave birth to a daughter, Delaney, in February 2014, and the couple got married in May 2015. Yeah, they crammed a lot into just 2.5 years. Jana actually grew up in small-town Indiana, where by her own account she spent most of her free time telling bad jokes and creating awkward situations. Her childhood therefore prepared her perfectly for a life of creating videos and blog content full of sarcasm and humor. Indeed, many may know Jana better by her social media name, The Blunt Blonde. In her Twitter introduction, Jana jests, "People think I'm always joking, but I'm not. I'm genuinely an unpleasant person and hate everyone equally." Her husband's childhood experience, on the other hand, was very different to Jana's. You see, David grew up in the Amish community. This hardline Swiss-German religious sect favors plain living and eschews modern technology. However, his wife writes on her blog that David has become well adjusted to his new English lifestyle. Despite this, Jana found enough museum in the Amish quirks David has retained to write a blog post about them on the Blunt blog. The piece was entitled, "You Can Take a Man Out of the Amish, but... These days, David works at a nearby RV dealership where Jana is a stay-at-home mom and blogger. The blog then is home to much of Jana's musings on her buried life with David. For instance, Jana has conceded that her husband works very hard and is often home later than he had planned. Jana has admitted that this, sadly, leaves her feeling isolated and conflicted. In December 2015, she told her blog readers all about it. She wrote, "I'm married to a hardworking man, and I'd be lying if I said that it didn't take a toll on me. Sometimes he'll come home after a long day at work, and I'll be waiting for him to walk in the door so I can yell, 'You promised you'd be home at 5,' as if he'd rather be working than spending time with me and our daughter." She added, "I'm putting him in a lose-lose situation. He literally can't win. If he doesn't work late, we won't get the new furniture set that I have to have. If he does work later, he comes home to a nagging wife who's desperate for his attention." She continued, "I'm so selfish in our marriage, and I know that. But every once in a while, I have my little aha moment that gives me a sense of understanding." One such moment occurred for Jana on a Wednesday evening when, once again, David was working late. She'd put his dinner to keep in the fridge for his eventual return and was playing with Delaney on the floor. But while Jana and Delaney looked at books and played with some dolls, Jana's mind was working overtime. She was thinking, of course, about how she would most likely erupt with an emotional explosion when her husband finally got home. David still hadn't returned by the time Jana heard the clothes dryer finish its cycle. So Jana opted to fold the warm clothes as a way of cooling down her emotions. But as she took the garments out of the dryer, she was still thinking of David's absence. She explained in her blog post that she began wondering, why does he not want to spend time with me? We're newlyweds. Aren't we supposed to be in the honeymoon stage? Soon Jana had formed 2 piles of folded laundry. She'd put her clothes in one pile and his in another, ready to be put away in their closets. But it was only then that Jana noticed something about David's pile. It was a simple observation that until that moment she'd completely missed. Then it hit her. What was this attitude-shifting revelation? Jana told her readers her thinking. She asked, "Why did my clothes look so vibrant, clean, and new? His were dingy, stained, and torn." It was only then that she realized the full extent of the sacrifice her husband was making for her. She explained, "This man provided more than I deserve. If I tell him I want something, he'll seldom tell me no." Jana then added that this realization made her feel incredibly guilty. She was allowing her husband to treat her to nice outfits while he made do with his shabby and tired clothing. And to compound this, she was feeling aggrieved by his absence because he was out earning so that he could do just that. Jana wrote, I get spoiled with the fruits of his labor, and he's okay with a pair of torn boxer briefs. I was acting as if he was out partying with his friends, but his laundry told a completely different story. This led Jonna to reflect that it wasn't just her husband's clothes that had taken the brunt of all that hard work. No, David himself was becoming mentally and physically torn and frayed by his job. His hands were now rough, blistered and cracked. Not only this, but he would often miss out on dinner and go to bed early because he was so fatigued from his long and arduous day of labor. Nonetheless, Jonna disclosed the fact that David didn't seem to mind all the late nights. She told her followers, "His heart is full when he walks in through the door and our daughter runs for him excited, yelling, 'Dada!' His dreams have come true of being able to be a man and provide for his family. He has everything he's ever wanted in life." Thanks to this revelation, a thankful Jonna promised herself to strive to be a better wife. She'd no longer get mad when her husband was late home from work. Instead, she'd remember the sacrifices David was making, both for her and their daughter. She wrote, "Sure, I miss him and want to spend time with him throughout the week, but I realized he's offering me the most beautiful form of love there is. He works to give our family everything we need. He works so his wife and daughter won't go without, even though there are times I'm sure he does." And Jonna had some advice for other wives and partners who found that they felt lonely while their other halves were out at work. Indeed, she concluded her blog post with a suggestion for a fresh way of thinking about the problem. Jonna summed up, "If you have a hardworking man in your life and you can't comprehend how much he loves you, do his laundry." While not everyone reading Jonna's blog could relate to this laundry story, there were plenty for whom it struck a real chord. One such reader left a comment below the article claiming that it brought it all back home. She said, "This is an amazing reminder. I used to stay home with our daughters when they were little, and I used to feel horrible doing the same thing. This is an awesome perspective to carry." As for Jonna, she continued to compose blogs for her website, The Real Blunt Blonde. Many of the entries are, unsurprisingly, about aspects of her family life. Due to the interest lots of people seem to have with the Amish culture, many of Jonna's pieces also discussed David's background. One blog post, "I'm not Amish, but my husband is," talks about how she met David and was then introduced to his parents. It also pokes fun at some of the misconceptions she entertained about the Amish before she got to know him. And Jonna naturally also covers motherhood. In early 2016, for instance, Jonna was struggling to cope with what's often referred to in childhood development as the terrible twos. This is when toddlers start to rebel against their parents, and Jonna responded to its challenges with comedy gold. In an article entitled, "I Graduated at the University of Toddlertown and Majored in Defeat," tells funny yet frustrating stories of everyday life with her daughter at that stage. Now Delaney is hopefully well past the terrible twos, having almost reached the age of 4. And although parenthood is still hard, it seems that Jonna and her daughter are sharing some truly beautiful moments. Indeed, in July 2017, Delaney traveled to Disneyland to meet with Cinderella, an encounter filmed by her mother and later posted on Facebook. No doubt, David must have had to work a few late evenings to pay for his daughter's